Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon to all of you for joining today. My name is Nilesh Patel, and I'm the founder and CEO of LeadSquared. And today we are going to talk about how we can increase the enrollments for your college. What are the those learnings we have shared? And today I have with me Dr. Ajay Shukla, who brings a ton of experience in education domain, and he started his career with finance. So welcome, Ajay, on the show.
Thank you, Nilesh. Thanks for the introduction.
Yeah, I'll quickly give whatever I could read about Ajay on the web. So I believe, Ajay, you started your career with finance domain, and then went into publication for a while, which led to obviously education segment, and then eventually landed and focused on higher education, which is where you have started your new venture in higher education. I would love to learn a few things about you, about your, if you can share a few details about yourself for the benefit of the audience.
Yes, thank you, Nilesh, and welcome everyone who's joined this webinar. I'm one of those late bloomers where I found my calling rather late in life, which is education. I started my career in banking and financial services with American Express, and was the head of product marketing and sales after a long 12-year stint in New Delhi, India. And then moved on to ABN AMRO Bank as the founding vice president of credit cards, launched the cards, became the fastest selling credit cards for foreign banks in India in a short span of 18 months. And then moved on to an interesting and a memorable assignment with the Reader's Digest as CEO based out of Mumbai, grew the circulation from just 400,000 to 650,000 in 2 years. As the fastest growing magazine, was awarded by the media industry as the Media Marketer of the Year. Then I was searched to head Tata McGraw-Hill Education. Many of you may be familiar with that. It's a global content publishing and digital learning solutions company. As the managing director in 2005, served there for 9 years. Rose to be the president of McGraw-Hill Education for Asia Pacific, all the way from China to Australia, including India. And I've worked in 14 markets that were under my watch, including China, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand, and the Indian subcontinent. Again, a very memorable stint. This region became the fastest growing and the most profitable region in the world, with a top line of $140 million in the span of 9 years. I then moved on to Dubai, UAE, in 2014 as the CEO of an education holding company, which owned an American liberal arts college, and co-founded a firm, Higher Education UAE, which I have recently joined. I was initially there only as an investor late last year. Here we offer consulting, educational and managed services to universities, and also digital platforms. That's a brief about me. I really enjoy the fact that being in education, we make a difference to lives. And that is the interesting part of being in education. It's not just a business, but every day you make a difference, helping students achieve their dreams and aspirations.
Absolutely.
So that's about me. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ajay, for covering the background. And I think today, I'm sure would love to hear more from more specifics about your insights in terms of how whatever you've learned, you have seen and observed, for higher education organization, how they can drive their enrollments. And also, I believe because of your long career, which primarily also had a lot of component of consumer marketing, even financial services. So what goes into the mind of the consumer and how you basically get access to it and learn from it and try to see you can drive fulfillment for those consumers. And obviously education is a product at the end of the day which people buy for a certain fulfillment or a goal. So would love to hear more from you as we go along. So with that, let me dive into the presentation forward. So we are going to cover 7 things which me and my colleagues have put together here, fundamentally in driving enrollments for education institutions. So the 7 broad points which we came and put together were fundamentally around understanding the motivation of your students. How do we create a compelling story of selling or marketing our organization, our institution, and then we dive into the aspects which are more related to how we execute the enrollment and the admissions and the marketing process in terms of lead generation, importance of that, focusing on quality of leads, reducing response time and its impact on your enrollments, and a lot of the degree programs which we sell are long. It takes a while for people to buy. So what can we do to keep them engaged is basically another important point. And then what the role can technology play to basically enhance the effectiveness of your programs, effectiveness of your marketing and enrollment programs, and then improve the whole process of doing so. These are some of the stats which we found and put together here for everyone's reference. Obviously, each of you would have your own sense of numbers in terms of what percentage of leads convert into admissions and stuff like that. But here is what we found from a few markets. A lot of the colleges who are going for enrollments, a lot of them miss their enrollment targets by 34% of colleges miss their enrollment targets, which means in the so 65% are the only ones who are able to achieve and probably overachieve their goals of enrollments, which means the capacity is going vacant. And then the targets are stiff. So admissions directors are, so that's number is 55%. Our admissions directors are very concerned about their targets. A lot of calling activities which goes on after the leads are generated are going unanswered. And then finally, the competition is increasing. So there are more institutions going after the same student base than earlier. So these are all realities in which everyone, all of the education institutions are operating today. And that's the background on which we will build on to our discussion here. So Ajay, I want to just bring you into the conversation. Basically the question an enrollment director or the admissions head is asking, is basically putting forward is, my team is working hard, and I'm still struggling. And as you see, 35% of people are struggling to meet their enrollment target. So, what, in your experience, is the reason for this question coming in from admissions team?
Thank you, Nilesh. I have phrased some of the comments as I hear verbatim from enrollment managers and directors from the universities that we consult with and work with to build enrollments. The one that I hear quite often is that I'm working so hard, but I'm struggling to meet my enrollment targets. And if I perhaps do a show of hands for all the attendees of this webinar, I believe that almost 100% will say that yes, this is indeed true. Clay Christensen, who's a Harvard faculty and a leading authority on higher education, recently did some research and has concluded that over half of the higher education institutions in US will go bankrupt by 2050, mainly because they will not meet their enrollment goals. Yes, it is driven by many things, including the online education, MOOCs, replacing certain college level programs. But for a great extent, it's also driven by the enrollment machinery, the process, and the overall professionalism in the enrollment departments, which is also a risk factor in terms of meeting your enrollment goals. So enrollment departments and campaigns often build on what has worked in the past. And that is something which has changed dramatically in the last few years. Digital channels have overtaken the traditional channels. And that is happening not just in US, but elsewhere globally as well. The investments and the enrollment outcomes are misaligned. What do I mean by that? Many higher education institutions have very basic measures of efficiencies, outcomes, and trends, which are not tracked over time. Which channel is working? What kind of lists, creatives, and offers are performing better than the others? What is the return on investment in terms of the marketing dollars spent and the overhead allocated to particular channels and campaigns? That is not measured on a real-time basis in a savvy way, and it's clear that the allocation of resources as a result is not necessarily well aligned towards what gives you the greatest results. So that is one of the issues that needs to be fixed. The other is optimization of your time and institutional budgets. If you don't analyze, you don't measure, you will not be able to know exactly what works and what doesn't work. So clearly you can be working very hard, but you're not working very smart. And the sum and substance of what I want to say on this particular question is that measure, measure, measure. What gets measured gets done, which means that whether you are looking at various segments of your customers, whether your prospective enrollees, whether you are looking at channels like email marketing, like social media, like events, like open days, and other database marketing tools, or you are looking at various approaches in terms of the campaigns, what creative has worked better in a particular social media campaign, what frequency in terms of prospect contact has worked better than others. And I'll speak a little later on this subject in a subsequent slide. So important thing is that a certain automation of the processes, which leads to measurement of what works and what doesn't, is going to help you work smarter and not harder, and eventually lead to amazing productivity gains in your enrollments.
So basically what you're saying is that fundamentally a couple of things have happened. The environment in which all the institutions are operating has undergone a shift or is already undergoing a shift. So we have to be cognizant of that. B, the way we used to operate in terms of the classic enrollment department, that needs to change, and they have to become tech savvy. So the tech savvy word obviously is being overused here, but what you pointed out is what can be done to increase the productivity and efficiency and effectiveness of the staff, which basically can be driven through automation and certain tools which can be deployed, so that you can measure the work getting done and then appropriately assign your budgets, etc., to the most effective programs, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well summarized. Thank you, Neil.
Perfect, perfect. So let's move on. So the first point is around understanding motivation, which basically, so if you're an institution, selling a program, attracting students for degree programs, then fundamentally, what goes into the mind of the student is what needs to be to be understood, and that's one of the first piece of work which is there for the admissions and the marketing team to be done. So basically, what I've put together here is just a single slide, and then there are a few following ones. The motivation drives the decision for a student. So there has to be some motivation, which basically gets the student to either go and ask for an inquiry, put a request to learn more about the program. And so the motivation is a fundamental thing which will attract the student to us. And unless the institutions and the marketers understand the motivation, driving them or attracting the students would be difficult. And in which case, getting to a decision will be even harder, because if you don't catch hold of them and somebody else does, then you are as unlikely to get them to decide on picking your program. Now, again, this question, which is very common, I would say, across different sectors in the businesses, but in particular to education, Ajay. I'm sure you would have heard this, that whatever I'm trying to say as a brand is not getting connected with my audience. And fundamentally, there are multiple reasons around it. A lack of understanding of the motivation of a student. But in your experience, what would be your advice to all our audience today here in terms of how they can answer, or how they can go about answering this question about changing the way they work to connect with their audience? And what's your thoughts on that?
Thank you, Nilesh. This is an important one, because everything starts with how you position your brand and your message. Everything around your channels, campaigns, and segmentation will really depend on this. One of the things that I have noticed repeatedly is that most universities, not all, colleges, institutions, seem to be communicating their brand positioning from a we standpoint. We as in, we are so good. We have been around for X decades. We have a wide spectrum of programs. We have been ranked so and so. This is one of the areas where higher education can actually learn a lot from direct to consumer companies who shun the idea of we, but what the brand does for you. And this is something I learned a lot at American Express, ABN AMRO, and Reader's Digest in particular, where all our messaging used to be about what we do for the consumer. For example, if the communication message, if the university is great on the student life experience, then it may be, and it actually works hard to create a sense of belonging within a diverse set of students, then perhaps the brand positioning should lead from that. You get a sense of belonging. You can make a promising future without financial uncertainty. You can enjoy solid graduate outcomes in terms of employability. These are the things that are going to connect much better with your audience. Another gap that I have seen is that, and that is actually easily fixable, is that marketing departments, enrollment departments actually need to talk to new intake students, create focus groups as they come into the college, understand through a focus group exercise what their motivations were, what they found attractive about the university, and then blend that finding into your brand positioning the next time around, and keep doing it iteratively to keep improving your brand positioning. Now, an example I will give you is we were working with a branch campus of a reputed American university which prides itself in its engineering and IT programs and have a campus in Dubai. They wanted us to put together a campaign for outreach in India. When we went to the website and what they were communicating about the brand versus what Indian students are looking for, there was a vast disconnect. So we actually went ahead and said that we'll create a microsite specifically for the India prospects. What Indian students are looking for is a globally valid degree which puts them at par with all other university graduates. So one of the USPs we found of this branch campus was that the degree actually came from the home campus in America. So what you had in your hand in terms of your qualification was no different from what you would have got if you had studied, paying 4 times more in the American campus. So it became get the same educational credentials and outcomes at 1/4 the cost. The other thing that Indian universities aspirants look for are scholarships and financial aid. Purely because of the affordability reasons, many students may be well qualified in terms of their high school credentials, but may not have the means to study in a university. And this university had an excellent program to provide financial aid. So we kind of used that and made that you can earn excellent financial aid up to Y% of your tuition fees if you have the right high school qualifications and a good score in the admission. So brand positioning is important. It is the fountain of everything that you will do subsequently in enrollment. But talk to your prospects, understand what is clicking with them, and use more of you than we.
Absolutely. No, I think great point. I mean, I think and I've personally observed in LeadSquared as well. A lot of times the way we say, just as a product itself, it helps people, run the acquisition of a customer process faster, better, and all of that. But if I say the same thing to a hospital, I have to say probably patient acquisition. If I have to say the same thing to an education institution, I have to talk the language of admissions and enrollment and stuff like that. So, and if I say the same to a real estate customer, that'll be a bit different. And so, so what you said is absolutely in the eyes of the customer, you have to be relevant, and probably that drives the connect with the audience. So, just to add on to what you mentioned, we had a customer business school, and then for them we did a little campaign early on where they wanted to sort of drive leads through running multiple ads. And wait a sec, I think I've defocused the slides. Okay, yeah, back. And so they were so we tested a few ideas, and what we found was which was working, out of the 6 you see here is the one which is on the top right, and I'll just bring that up in the focus, is basically other pages were talking more generic things, more things which are either, as you said, the V kind, or more not focused or pertinent to the student and their life and the benefit to them. And so what you see in this microsite / landing page is the what is offered is clearly mentioned. There is a clear testimonial about somebody else who has done that and have been very successful, which speaks in itself about the outcome of what you can get from this program. and certain key points which are aligned to the career objectives of the student, and a very simple click to action where they can quickly fill a form and then get somebody to talk to. So that is one simple way to look at what in the same context you may be saying two different things, but something which connects to the audience, to the student, comes out as a winner versus everybody else. And the results were for itself to see. So there were conversion increased by 18%, and there were 350% more signups of this page versus the poorest performing one. And my colleague Rajat, he put the slide together. It's a kind of fun fact, but we were discussing while we were creating this presentation that what is the what drives decision in mind of an individual. And what he found, a certain interesting fact, was that the emotion part of the brain is responsible to drive a decision making. So there was an experiment which is or research which was done by a neuroscientist, Antonio Damasio, which basically he put together people and did a research on them. Those set of people had some damage on the part of the brain which where emotions are generated. And what he found was that people who who do not have emotions working for them have a tough time making and coming up to a decision. Meaning, if you give them two choices, it'll be very hard for them to pick one of them because they are not having those emotions to come forward and make a certain decision. So what is being overwritten multiple times by many marketers and advertisers, and the research is like published all over the place, is that people first make a decision and then they add up the logical facts to support that. So first they will think, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and then they'll find reasons of why they'll do it, and that's how they explain the reasoning behind it. So decisions are done by the emotional part of the brain, and which is what a marketer needs to tap into to be able to have an opportunity to have the students sign up for their college. So I'll go to the next piece of it. So we covered the first element, and which is understanding the motivation of a student. Then there's another piece which Ajay, you touched upon a little bit on the brand positioning part, which sort of connects to the compelling storytelling. And I wanted to kind of bring this up on two counts. I mean, first is storytelling usually helps people connect with a brand easier because stories are something which just like if I tell you a story, I went to this place yesterday in a bar and this is what happened. And so immediately, because of the nature of how the story is getting told, there'll be a connect, and the audience will be hooked to what is being said. So if a narrative can be created in a form of a story, it really offers a huge advantage to the brand, and that's what we should try. And so let me bring one slide up here. So this is a story by one American college, and what they did was, wait a sec. What they did was they basically took a fun angle to the whole drug problem. So if you know of, like in American schools, drug is a big deal. Like 1 in 5 teenagers experiment with that. So if you remove the art with the drug here, you will see the fun element here. So 1 in 5 teenagers will experiment with drug, know the warning signs of if your kid is taking drug, do you want to end up as as a sister who's taking drug, or your son has been taking drugs. So basically, if you connect the story, and so what this college did was, or the agency they hired did was, is basically, and this was an art school, obviously. So they basically communicated the story of art in the form which was more connected to the audience, because the problem around drug is so common that everybody understands that. and so they were able to catch the attention and drive the response for this particular college. So the campaign had a huge success. That's one. The second is more of a story of a nursing college, and what they did was they basically, what Ajay you said earlier, right? Going to your own students and asking them, what happened, what did they see in the narrative, why they chose a certain college or your college, and what were their background and all of that. So this college did this work, and basically what they found is there is a single mother who did not have any formal education. She was a restaurant manager, and what she basically was doing for a living is she felt that this is not how she wants to lead her life and grow up her child. And so what she did was she took a decision to sign up for a nursing program and then raise her daughter while doing two jobs and stuff like that. Obviously, it's a very heartwarming story where you would find somebody doing all the hard work to be successful, creating themselves as an ideal for their family and securing the future of their family. So by going back to the student, the college picked up this interesting story, which is already there, and then highlighted that in form of a campaign, which was very well received and compelling for people, and obviously helped drive the enrollment. So the work being done here really was to go back and look at your own student, because there's always a story with everyone, right? And so finding the right story which can connect with the masses you're after is going to be hugely beneficial to your college.
Nilesh, if I may just
absolutely,
sort of,
please,
amplify your point. One of the problems enrollment and admission managers face is building credibility with their prospective students and sometimes parents. Most of the prospects see them as trying to sell the university, and the two target groups within the university that have the greatest credibility with your prospects are existing students and faculty. So testimonials, real stories from these two groups in terms of how the university has helped them transform their lives, what difference are they making to the world of higher education and knowledge in the case of faculty, gets you an immediate platform of credibility. And stories always inspire. So clearly, getting over the hump of decision making in your favor, use stories and testimonials as liberally as possible, particularly from students and faculty.
Absolutely. And the fallout of a story is that it drives an action, which is what the institution would want to build the contact and start the conversation with the student. And this could come in any form. It could be a simple sign up form, following on social media, or application for a program, or somebody telling somebody else about how cool this college is, which is again is going to drive the next step for the college. So let's just dive into the next piece, which is generating high quality leads. So I think everybody wants high quality leads, and there is always this question about how can I generate high quality leads? And I think a lot of times the point which comes in is that I don't have the control on what is going on, or very little control on some of these things on the social media, the website, and so on and so forth. But I think that may be a problem statement, but may not be entirely true. And I think there are ways you can get things under control. And Ajay, I'd love to have your views on this particular point, which we have heard from admissions teams.
Yes, this is another piece, Nilesh, and all the participants today, I hear quite a lot, is that I have little or partial control over all the digital media that my university or college is present in. I clearly know that it's an important source, but I don't seem to have full control on how to use it. I will spend maybe 2 minutes because this is a very important part. Remember this statement that not all leads are created equal. The most valuable leads that you will ever get are organic leads that come through website or social media campaigns. And they have higher conversion rates, higher engagement rates, and often are the highest fee-paying students. So clearly, it's an important aspect or a channel for the enrollment teams to control, because this is probably the most valuable. The other issue with most websites and social media that a college has or a university has is that it caters to a diverse target audience. It caters to prospects, current students, staff, alumni, and it can often lead to a confusing user experience and high abandon rates, because a student comes, sees a site which is catering to multiple target audiences, abandons their journey, and you lose a critical lead, which we know is probably the most valuable amongst all channels. So it's important that all of you make a case that as far as the prospect journey is concerned, even if you have to escalate the issue to your college president and others in the leadership, that as the prospect journey should be the enrollment marketing should be accountable for specific website and social media pages aimed at prospective students. It doesn't mean that you have to take full control of the website, because it serves many other stakeholders, but you should be the prime driver of the user experience, because this is the most valuable channel for you. Now, if we were to all draw a 2x2 matrix in terms of deep user experience and shallow user experience, and what kind of pull or a push is attributable to a particular channel. For example, outbound email marketing is clearly a push channel, but organic leads landing on your website is a pull channel. People have come, they have come to discover you through SEO, SEM marketing efforts, Google AdWords, or whatever else. But these are organic leads which have come to you through a pull. And the second is, are you giving deep information or are you giving shallow information? So if it is simply a banner ad or a Google AdWord, then the value of the lead is low compared to a full-on email marketing or a website lead. So think about this, that wherever you give deep information and wherever the lead is coming through a pull, that is the most valuable lead. And that's the reason why it's important that website and social media control should be with the enrollment marketing teams. The other tips I can give you on this particular aspect is that how do you manage all the action when you have so many digital sources, because content becomes an issue. So clearly you need to have a strategy on the content where you say that, okay, I will create the most deep content about my programs and my enrollments on the website. And then whether it is the brand messaging, I will adjust the brand messaging to the medium and then create a slew of creatives for social, email, banner, Facebook, YouTube, Google Plus, or telemarketing scripts. But the fountain or the repository of the brand positioning, the messaging, and the deep information will be on the website, and then I will be able to repurpose depending on the medium or the channel or the campaign. So that's an important take. That first takeaway is fight for controlling the user experience journey on website and social media. Second, deep information and pull leads are very valuable. So maximize your channels in terms of getting quality leads by having more pull and deep information. Content management, you create a repository on the website and then repurpose as per the medium. Two final tips are that mobile phone based inquiries are becoming extremely important. Many prospects are actually accessing net only on their mobiles. So making sure that your site is mobile optimized, or you even can consider smartphone apps for your institution for the prospects. And the final tip is there is a magic number 5, and try and remember this. Magic number 5 is that a prospect responds after 5 email or outbound contacts. So don't abandon your lead too early. Be patient in nurturing the lead and engaging with the prospect. Tell a different story in the first 4 emails, and there is a high chance that your 5th attempt will be successful. So overall, I think taking control over all the touch points that the college has from a prospect standpoint is very important for you. And the tips that I have given you, I'm sure you can put in practice in no time and get some amazing results.
Absolutely. No, I think those are very, very valuable points. And I think I enjoyed the last one, which is again extremely important, and a lot of times people give up, is the whole idea of being persistent, just not giving out for the first call or a second call, but being at it. And I think that's an important point, because if you lose the 5th or 6th attempt, then maybe your competition is going to have that student. And so coming to the question of generating quality leads, I think Ajay has summarized most of the point, but I think what I found, as an institute would over the period of time, that the definition of a good quality lead, is learned by every organization with time, and you will know what good quality lead is. And I'll sort of I've met different people, who are even store owners, and I asked this question to them about, when somebody walks into your store, can you tell if this person is going to make a purchase in your store? And I hear a lot of them say 2, 3, or 4 such things that tells them about the ability of an individual who walks in to make a purchase. And they've learned this as part of their experience in dealing with so many people. So I think over the time, people learn, what a good student is. And I say that because a good lead is, I say this because if you're selling an arts program, to a population which is, let's say, over 40, and I'm just making it up here, then what type of people over 40 will be interesting who will be willing to exchange their hard-earned money for the program. I think that segment of the population would be learned over time, and I think that's what would differentiate a good quality leaders from others. And what sources? So once you know what a good quality lead is, keeping watch of the sources where they come from is going to be more mechanical, I would say, if you're using the right set of tools to identify which leads are which sources are doing best for you. So that's there. Just a quick, if you're using a tool like LeadSquared, then this is going to be a piece of cake for you, where you can find, how leads have moved in various stages, and which are showing the most conversion, which sources are showing the most conversion, would be easy for you to find and invest more on those particular sources. Now, couple of elements which Ajay also pointed out and which are equally important. As you keep. So first is you get the interest of a student, and then you have to keep them engaged till the point they make a decision. And what is available with you today, which you can deploy and keep track of leads which are good, while they are engaged with your communication. So what you can do is, as you can see here, there's a very simple concept we can use in LeadSquared called LeadScore, which basically allows you to capture every touch point, and every touch point can be assigned a score, which gives you in return the ability to identify which set of leads are more engaged with your business, with your organization, with your marketing programs versus others. So in this case, as you can see, the first student on the top, is driving more engagement, spending more time on the website, responding to the emails, clicking the emails being sent to them, versus the other gentleman who is not doing as much of it. And as you can see, the first one is clearly identified as a more engaged and a higher quality lead as such. Then there's a how do we Ajay, as you pointed out, that while we're doing a certain brand strategy, how do we tighten our operations around that, so that the strategy and operations are sort of aligned? So what would you have for the audience on this particular aspect?
See, while we can, thank you, Nilesh, and while we can speak about the element of brand, the quality of leads, website, and some tips and tricks, we often forget that organizational alignment is also very important for the words and the music to go together. What do I mean by that? What I've heard quite often is, and many of the people who are attending the webinar today will say that, oh, the marketing department did not generate enough quantity or quality of leads, and that's why the admissions numbers are not great. On the other hand, the marketing department will say that, well, we generated a lot of leads, but it's the admissions department that is not, admitting these students, although we've generated the quantum of leads. So it's important that strategy and operations be aligned. There has to be a single meeting point organizationally where admissions and recruitment and marketing converge together to avoid these kind of finger pointing situations. So that is something that is probably more appropriate for the enrollment directors or leaders who are on the webinar. But it's important that they should not be on the opposite side of the fence.
Absolutely.
The role of the marketing and recruitment department, as well as the admissions department, is the same, to get the best possible students in terms of quality and quantity for your programs. They have the same goal, and they must also converge organizationally. The second thing is that there has to be greater visibility throughout the organization, even if you feel that they are not really involved in the prospect and conversion process. You must publish periodically results about channels and campaigns in terms of reach, response, engagement, conversions, and return on investment. By that I mean including cost per enrollment. And that will send a signal to the university and college at large that, yes, this is a very important department. These guys are working hard. They measure their success on a regular basis. They share their results, and you will receive a lot of support. I mean, I found that when I started publishing these measures in the college that I was the CEO of, many faculty came to me and said that, hey, we didn't even know that you guys have such a complex and challenging task, and how hard you work every day, and how you measure your success. Can I be a part of it if you want me for any events where you would like me to hold a taster session or a class? in an open day or at a school, take me along. I would be very happy to help. So make sure that you evangelize what you do throughout the institution. And only then will you optimize your channel efficiency and resource allocation. We've spoken about that earlier. And nothing of this can happen without, of course, organizational alignment is one thing, but nothing of this can happen without having a really good automated system of customer relationship management from the point where they first touch the university or college to when they become a student or even alumni. So that would be my tip, that align your organization, share what you do to get engagement and support, and use scientific tools to automate and optimize.
Perfect, Ajay. Thank you. And quickly moving on to, so we'll try to squeeze some of the few slides quickly so that we have a few minutes left for the Q&A. So another important thing, which is obviously a common sense in a lot of ways, but where we have seen a lot of delay in how people respond to their inquiries. But fundamentally, reducing response time is extremely crucial. And so what you need to do is, whenever an inquiry is getting generated, if you have multiple programs and different admissions teams for different programs, then try to route those inquiries as quickly as possible to respective teams. And here's where something like LeadSquared comes into to your rescue, where as an inquiry is generated, you drive the distribution of it by program, by campus. If you have multiple campuses, then driving to different teams sitting in different campuses as quickly as you can, and then also sharing information with your students. As Jeb mentioned earlier, driving richness of the content on the website so that the student gets most of it as much as they can early on. And if there's anything left behind, you can send this information over to them through emails. And then as you email or other communication channel, and as you are sending that information over, you can also see how they are getting responded to, so that you can drive any additional actions necessary. And then while as you're sending over inquiries to your teams, you give them ability to react to those inquiries, get in touch with the students as quickly as possible, through text or call, whatever, or email, whichever is working better in your respective geography. And that again can be driven and tracked through a tool like LeadSquared. Then keeping them engaged. I think this is again a point where if you have generated an inquiry and the time it takes for inquiry generation to closure could be days, could be weeks or more, then there's a common complaint that I'm not able to keep my prospect engaged. But I think Ajay gave a good pointer there in terms of that we need to do at least 5 touch points to make sure that we have engaged fully with the prospect before we stop paying any attention to them. So I'll quickly flip over this piece quickly and show you how you can drive the communication with your prospect in an automated way. And this is a quick diagram of how you can create workflows in LeadSquared system, where you can pre-populate how you want to communicate with your students by program, by geography, or by campus, whatever is sensible for your org structure. So an application comes in, and you can communicate with them in a certain fashion. You can look at how they respond to it. Basis of that, you can further communicate, and then when they're ready, you can pass it on to the admissions team there. That you can do as okay. We'll just move on to the next slide. So we have this the workflow which I showed you, which you can create, and then you can measure how the workflows are performing, and then you can this is an important point. What we have found in our research is that, or we found in the research we picked from the net and other places, is that the ability for students to respond on text is very high these days, or text or a local messaging app, could be WhatsApp or whatever. and so you have to take advantage of that, because millennials or the new age students are more pro in terms of working on those mediums. So at this point, we have talked about the technology while we were speaking on this particular in last 4 or 5 points. I think at this point I'll quickly let you all ask any questions you have at this point before because we have only 5 minutes left, and in the interest of time, would love to have you all ask any questions so that we can respond to respond to your questions before we close the session. Okay, so there's one question I think which I can see here, which has come from Mr. Sadar Waqas Ahmed, and his question is, how come social media leads are organic? Okay, I think you're right, they're not organic in that sense, but people, if they are searching you on social media and they find your pages organically by virtue of searching on social media, then while they're not social media, they're kind of organic leads because your brand is being organically seen there. But in true sense, only the search leads are organic, but the people can search on social media pages as well. So I think that's what probably Ajay, you would have mentioned in your.
Yes, I think it's right that social media is not, in a true sense, organic. I see another question here. I'm not getting any leads from social media. Which channel works the best?
Okay.
So if I can just say that, okay, we have to see that what is the purpose of social media. In the conventional integrated marketing, we have a certain media vehicles that work as for the brand, and then a certain set of media that work for direct response. So I want you to hear this very carefully, that there are some brand-driven properties, and there are some direct response-driven properties. In the conventional old world media, all that you see on TV or print or radio advertising is more brand. It creates a certain awareness, and at the point of sale, that awareness can result in boosting your purchase decision. But it's not direct response. So typically in social media, whether it's Facebook pages or LinkedIn pages, yes, you will have an option for people to click somewhere and go to a certain prospect capture form. But primarily they are meant for brand awareness. And you must see them as such that 80% of the task of social media is brand awareness, and you can create campaigns with a series of messages, and 20% can be direct response. It also depends on what creative you use. If you have a very strong call to action in your social media, where it's compare, let's say, a Facebook post which says that scholarship offer closing in 48 hours, click here to register, versus saying that we are now admitting students for our semester in September. You will find that the direct response impact of the first one will be higher and not the second one. So it depends on the creative, but by and large, social media does more of brand awareness than direct response.
Perfect. And I think there's a follow-on. There's another question which is around how we can increase referral leads through automation. So I think automation has, in my opinion, has to be seen in the following way. So first, it will help you do things which you were not able to do manually, within a certain time, so that drives efficiency in that. And B, it will allows you to do new things which you wouldn't be able to do earlier because of lack of bandwidth of doing it. So I think in that context, I would like to imagine automation to help. So for example, driving a lead through referral leads, right? So if you have an alumni in your college, right, and you make it a make it a point to reconnect with that alumni on a periodic basis, asking them to refer other people who would be interested in being part of the same college, or inviting your alumni to share their stories of success with the prospective students. And so in that sense, if you see, you're trying to drive the advantage of you're referring to an existing student and driving that message of their success with your prospective students. So I think some of that, now these are ideas which can be implemented faster if you have the power of automation with you versus not having it. So I think that is, so fundamentally nothing changes. In automation will drive efficiencies and allow you to do things which you were not able to do earlier. And another question we have, which is about what's the penetration of online higher education in UAE, and is it considered as a threat by traditional institutions, and what are traditional institutions investing or are doing in investing in online education in UAE? I think this is the best addressed by you, Ajay.
Yeah, thank you. I would say online education is still in its relative infancy. There are two types of online education. One is what I called credit-based nano degrees, more like the MOOCs that you hear from edX and Udemy. So those are options that are available to any learner globally in terms of getting education credentials through reputed global MOOCs. And they are available to users here as well. But my initial reading without any quantitative data is that they are still in their infancy. The second type of online education is less to do with the credentials and credits, more about gaining professional specific domain-specific knowledge. For example, if you want to do something in big data analytics, Python, R are very important tools. You need to learn those. We see a lot of interest in domain-specific professional learning, and sometimes they come with a certification and not necessarily a credit from universities, where you can actually go through the learning program and they'll award you a certificate of completion, not necessarily a credit. So the latter has a good uptick as of now. I have also heard that a number of students in universities, particularly when they are in their final years, want to gain certain professional qualifications like PMP, which again you can do online. So when you graduate, you improve your employability and prove your credentials beyond just a degree. So online education, although in its infancy, is really going to go up rapidly, particularly in domain-specific professional learning areas.
Got it. So I think with that, I'll probably drive to close the session. I think we're already over by 5 or 7 minutes. Thank you all for joining us for this session. As a closing remark, I want to just add that LeadSquared software, you can take a trial online, at your convenience, if you'd like to take advantage of what it can do for accelerating your enrollments. And if you people who would like to take a personalized demo can request for that directly as well, on either writing to sales@leadsquared.com or filling a contact us form there, and one of our representatives in UAE would schedule a time and to meet you in person and run the demo of a product and how we can how other institutions are using LeadSquared for driving their admissions. And this webinar could not have been possible without Ajay and higher education being part of it, with such a beautiful and valuable inputs, Ajay, you have shared for the audience. And as a closing remark, Ajay, if you have any points to add, would love to have that as a closing remark before we end the session.
Well, I again thank you all for joining and hearing us patiently. I think there are just 4 or 5 tips I can give you. You have to position your brand in line with your target audience, embrace digital and automation, measure and adapt constantly, integrate your strategy and operations organizationally, and learn to do more with less. And that's where I would like to close. And we have a special relationship with LeadSquared. We represent them here in UAE, particularly for the education segment. All of you who would be interested to know more about how to transform your enrollment and also about the LeadSquared trial access, they can contact us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Please feel free to contact either LeadSquared or Higher Education. And Ajay, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining. You all have a good day and a nice week ahead.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.